Well, all I have to say is thank goodness we got the politicians done with, right? Now we got the law enforcement guys, and I know I don't have to worry about the rules with those guys, right? Everybody's good. So terrific. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you're familiar with the format. We're going to start on the left. We're going to do a 2-minute introduction. Then we're going to do, I've got 2 questions to ask all of you, so we're going to rotate around and who goes first. And then you'll have a chance to come back with 2 minutes at the end to summarize. So just to start, I'm going to ask Mr. Chilton if he would get started and give us a 2-minute introduction, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Tim Chilton. I am the current Deputy Chief at the Police Department here in Culpeper. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Thank Johnny Krawchuk for doing his thing over there. Allison, some of the media that's here as well. It's at all of our events. And thank you for being part of the longest job interview that I've ever done in my life to this point. It's been about 7 or 8 months so far, and it's been interesting to say the least. I'm the only one up here, I think, that hasn't done any of the politics stuff before, and I've left the politics out of police work for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason is I don't believe this is a place for politics in the sheriff's race. I ran independent, and I've had some folks that have run some of my things, I guess my voting record and stuff like that, and I've been listed as a weak Republican, so I'm not sure what weak Republican means, but I understand that I voted in a Republican primary or something at some point. But either way, 26 years in law enforcement. I've worked for 5 chiefs at Culpeper. I've worked for 2 sheriffs. One was in Stafford County, one was in Fauquier County. I worked under 3 different federal task forces. I was assigned to DEA and to ATF and state police for 3 different tours on state police. I was there for 16 years, and that was all for narcotics work. Out of the 17 years that I did, or 16 years that I did narcotics work, I was also on 3 different SWAT teams, and all of those SWAT teams were part of the tactical operations for the task force groups that we worked with. So I rose through the ranks. I've carried every position in the police department except for chief. Like I said, I'm the current deputy chief that's sitting there right now under Chief Settle, who is the newest one, and most recently Chief Jenkins, who has since retired. My management responsibilities.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Next, Mr. Jenkins.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And unfortunately, with the format, it's going to be very difficult for any of us to thoroughly answer any subject that we'd like to talk about tonight. So I invite all of you, if you would like, you know where my office is and a phone number. Arrange time to come and speak to me personally. Invite me to your neighborhood HOA, what have you, community civic group, and I'll be there to answer your questions. And I'll be here tonight till the last person leaves. I'm an open book, born and raised here in Culpeper, family here for generations. At 18, I became a deputy sheriff, and I've been in law enforcement continuously, nonstop for 33 years. I'm 52 now. I have served all of that time, 30 of those years, wearing brown as a deputy or sheriff. I am honored to be your sheriff for the last 12 years here in Culpeper, and I hope that you will give me the honor to continue serving you the next 4 years. I want to thank my family for the support throughout my entire career. I could not do it without you. My staff tonight, once again, I didn't ask for you to be here, and it's heartwarming to see so many, dozens of, I know it's at least 50 or more of you. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to work alongside all of you. I have took over an office 12 years ago. The first year we tripled the number of DUI and drug arrests of the former administration. We had 1 squad that made more DUI and drug arrests in 6 months than the entire agency did in 4 years prior to me. I don't think we need to go backward. I think we need to keep moving forward. I started a proactive, aggressive law enforcement agency and continues to this day. I'm well known as a Republican member since the mid-90s. I ran independent in my early campaigns, and the last time, 4 years ago, I became your Republican sheriff here in Culpeper. And you know where I stand with that committee locally and what I've done on the national scale. Happy to share more of what I've done the last 12 years.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I'm Joe Watson, your candidate for Culpeper County Sheriff. I've lived and served in Culpeper County for almost 20 years. Before my service as operations captain at the Sheriff's Office, I retired from the City of Alexandria Police Department as a Special Operations Sergeant. Hearing from my neighbors, family, and friends about eroding confidence in law enforcement, I feel a duty to return to make a difference, the same duty that inspired my Marine Corps service and my 30 years of law enforcement in Virginia. My vision restores integrity, trust, and accountability. As Sheriff's Captain, I won the Quill Award for saving our county tax dollars. I will strengthen community engagement by starting community-based deputy assignments and expanding access to the sheriff and the command staff. We are facing unprecedented mental health and substance abuse crises in Virginia. My vision draws our deputies closer with our mental health professionals to implement the best strategies for mental health crisis management. In Virginia, fentanyl overdose deaths have exploded 20-fold in the last decade. Last May, Governor Youngkin signed the executive order supporting Virginia's Right Help, Right Now fentanyl strategy. As your sheriff, I will ensure that Culpeper actively pursues state and federal grant resources. Our deputies, especially those in our schools, need the training and tools to respond to fentanyl exposure when seconds count in saving our children's lives. I will also aggressively pursue external funding and resources to strengthen our narcotics task force partnerships and combat trafficking in and through our county. My vision also strengthens efficient jail services aligned with Virginia and national standards while advancing. Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. All righty. We're going to start with our questions now. And I'll start with Mr. Jenkins first, and I will read the, matter of fact, I'll read the question for you a couple times just so everybody can hear it. So, Mr. Jenkins, question 1. What steps do you believe the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office can take to increase community engagement and transparency? So I'll read the question again. What steps do you believe the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office can take to increase community engagement and transparency?
I would say that our office for the last 12 years has been one of the most transparent in the history of the office. I'll just say that on my watch since taking office 12 years ago, we began, as I mentioned a couple stats, an increase in the proactive aggressive policing with the number of drug and DUI arrests and other things. We included in that have reduced spending in jail areas and others where there were hundreds of thousands of savings the first year alone, and continued on. Year after year, those high rates of arrests and drugs, DUI, and other things continue to go up as well in that first term. Along that 12 years, we've gained national accreditation, which I would say in many ways that gives a level of transparency that we didn't have before. It's well known that as a conservative sheriff, I have been active in many issues that I feel are critically important to our nation and to our community every day. Border security, you know I started on that many years ago. The only 287G program left in the state of Virginia, and only the second when I joined it. The border work I did with sheriffs across the nation in the last 6 to 7 years is well known. But when it came to your rights, in 2019 when I campaigned on constitutional rights of Second Amendment and other issues, it came to fruition with those bills that were passed. In 2020, you saw where I stood when it came to your rights to assemble for church, whether there was a mask mandate or not. When state, local police, and others are threatening to enforce things, I took that stand on your First Amendment right, just as I did with the Second Amendment right. And I've stood fast on those constitutional rights when no one else was speaking. Actions matter, not talk. Talk is cheap. I'd ask you to compare me to opponents and others across Virginia to see what they did when those things mattered 4 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Watson, I'll read the question again. What steps do you believe the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office can take to increase community engagement and transparency?
As I stated in my opening for community engagement, I will assign supervisors, frontline supervisors, sergeants and corporals to all of the community groups in Culpeper. They will report back to the sheriff and the command staff about issues going into each community. That will also ensure our transparency, and we'll report back to those community groups about budgets, about important issues going on in the county at the time. We will work aggressively with Encompass. Mr. LeGraff was generous enough to give me about an hour and a half of his time a couple of months ago, and we talked about mental health and substance abuse beds and how we can better tackle our problems in those arenas. That's community outreach. Again, our transparency will be wide open. We will report our budgets and all of our reports every year to the community. So I look forward to that, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Mr. Chilton, I'll read the question again. What steps do you believe the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office can take to increase community engagement and transparency?
Well, community engagement starts with every single person in the office. I know Joe Sandy wants to assign a couple folks to different groups. There's about 50, 60 groups in this county. Unless we can hire about another 100 deputies, that's not going to happen. So the community engagement comes with the folks that are here currently. Everybody that's in this room can be a part of the community engagement. So if you're not being part of that, you got to be part of the solution. Part of the solution is every single deputy, every single officer, every single trooper has to be involved in community involvement or community unity. One of the stances for me, I have 3 very easy stances on my platform. One of them is community unity, flat out right at the top of my page. And then you have policing over politics and trust and transparency. The transparency piece is one of the easiest pieces for us to do something with when it comes to the sheriff's office or any agency. The transparency is the easiest piece that we can add to it is body-worn cameras. Every agency in the country that is doing proactive work has to have body-worn cameras. And Culpeper Sheriff's Office is a very proactive agency. They need the body-worn cameras on there so that the public can guarantee that everything that we're doing or everything that the deputies are doing is on the level. Same thing with the citizens. In my office that I currently work at, we've had them for almost 10 years, and I would say that it's saved the officers just as much as it saved the citizens in many, many instances. And what I mean by that is when it comes to an officer complaint, folks will come in and funnel an officer complaint into the office. I can sit down, review that body camera, and instantly say whether it's warranted or whether it needs any further investigation or if it needs any type of discipline. So those pieces right there is probably the easiest piece that any agency can add to their repertoire of things that they want to do. So I would say that's the first and foremost is the trust and transparency would be that body-worn camera system, and
Great.
we'd be able to do that within 90 days, hopefully.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. All right, second question, we're going to start with Mr. Watson. And I'll read it a couple times. What are your top priorities for the Sheriff's Office? How do you plan to work with other entities to achieve these goals? And I'll read it again. What are your top priorities for the Sheriff's Office, and how do you plan to work with other entities to achieve these goals?
One of the first things I want to do is increase the professionalism and morale of this office. We've got a lot of good men and women back here, and we want to make them proud of the agency that they work for. Second on that list, we're going to have to get on top of the opioids, the fentanyl, and the heroin trafficking through our county. We can do that by increased interdiction and working closer with our narcotics task forces and reaching out and getting funding to strengthen those. The third priority right now is jail population. We've got to find a way to cut down on our transportation costs and have a centrally located Culpeper County Jail to better assist our prosecutors and our defense attorneys, as Mr. Rabb stated last night. So we will work to get grant funding and work with the board to try and obtain possession of that facility at Coffeewood that's been sitting empty. That will be a savior for the County of Culpeper Sheriff's Office. It'll be a revenue builder as well as centrally locate all of our people. then our town jail can be used to transfer people in and out for court. I think it's an excellent solution to our problem, and I've already talked to some of the board members working towards that end. So those are the three things we're going to try to get done immediately, and I look forward to you putting me in that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Mr. Chilton, I'll read the question again. What are your top priorities for the Sheriff's Office, and how do you plan to work with other entities to achieve these goals?
Well, the good thing about the Sheriff's Office is that it already does work well with other jurisdictions, my jurisdiction being one of them, which is the police department. We do a lot of things together. We do a lot of events together. There's always better ways to do certain things, obviously. I think one of the biggest entities is the school system. The school system and the SRO program is flourishing. You know, under Scott, every school has an SRO in it now. I'm not sure of all the certifications of them because I don't know a lot of folks that are in the schools now. There's a lot of brand new people that are working in the school system. So one of the things that I would want to do is get to every single person that's in the agency, with the exception of the older ones. Not that we're going to talk about old age up on this stage either. Joe, just leave it at that. But if they don't meet the criteria to go to an LE school, an LE basic, the force multiplier for any agency is folks that are working in the jail, folks that are working in the courts, and having the ability for those folks to come out and work the street as well. So anybody you see at a football game or at an event, you know that person is 100% fully certified to do any piece of police work that comes along. So I think that gives the community a different sense of, not that there's anything wrong with the folks that work in the jail, not that there's anything wrong with the folks that works in the courts, but it's a different certification. So we'll push towards that and try to get that part of it done. Joe was bringing something up about the jail. There's been a lot of conversation about the Coffeewood jail. There's been a recent change in that thing. What happened was there was a 4-3 vote in the Board of Supervisors, and now that is sitting on the governor's desk to happen. So that jail is going to happen in Culpeper County, but it looks like it's going to be a regional board. So the regional board is 2 supervisors from one county, 2 from another, the 2 sheriffs, and a jail superintendent.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chilton. And by the way, Mr. Watson, I'm just pleased that when somebody's talking about age, you're not looking at me this time, so thank you. Great. Mr. Jenkins, I'll read the question again. What are your top priorities for the Sheriff's Office, and how do you plan to work with other entities to achieve these goals?
Picking back up from the last question, when you talk about engagement, transparency, this office works over 400 special events in this community a year. Think about that with the number of staff that we have, that we cover that many events. So we are engaged more than any administration past. The body cameras mentioned by Tim, I agree. Tim and I think alike on a lot of those issues. And price tag, though, we're 3 times the size of the town police department. It's well over $1 million price tag just to get the initial program going. Last, we got a price on it, which was a couple of years ago. If there's a grant, and we are trying, then we could implement that. It's transparency. We have car cameras. Like I said, I mentioned other things previously, but I don't want to burn up time on that. Moving forward, priorities. Lord knows I have talked enough ad nauseum for years now. The priorities, what's impacting us. Fentanyl. Look at the overdose deaths. Look at the mental health issues. That is what a sheriff knows are the key problems here and across Virginia. I have been active when no one else has been, nationally with other sheriffs. Look at Protect America Now. I was with the inaugural sheriffs that instituted that, working with Trump's border sheriffs groups. AFPI, FAIR, Foundation of American Immigration Reform, asked them about my work with them. All of those things in addition to running that office daily. The point is, I know the cartel has been active in this country, across the country, and in Virginia and in Culpeper for a long time. Tim knows that as well. Those are things most citizens don't understand, and we've been aggressively pursuing that. I'd love to give you more details, and there is no time, but I'm well aware of what the priorities are. I've been a sheriff for years. I've been a deputy longer, and I understand a sheriff's office better than my opponents do. We're asking for an ability to do it another 4 years, continue the work that we've been doing, and you are well served by the people in this office. This is a safe community, and we work well with the town police and other agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. To summarize, at the end, we're about to leave here. We'd love to have you take 2 minutes and tell us how you would like us all to remember your candidacy as we leave here this evening. And we'll start with Mr. Chilton.
I think first you need to remember me as the youngest one up here, so we'll start it off with, well, I don't know, Scott, I think he's a year younger than me, so maybe I'm wrong on that, but.
Just turned 52.
Yeah, so he's a year younger. Anyway, my 3 platforms are pretty simple. They're very light as far as when it comes to what they say: community unity, policing over politics, and trust and transparency. Those 3 things are heavy when you talk about them, but they're also one of those things where it brings a big community return. So when you talk about trust and transparency, quarterly finance reports would be available. One of the things that you could bring to the forefront is having those town hall meetings again. So anybody that wants to know about what you're spending, they can certainly come in there and ask those things. Community training on mental health responses. We do some with churches, we do some with school shooters, we do stuff with workplace violence. All of those things have to come back to the forefront as well. Tactical operations, that's one of my fortes, but then you go back to the opioid addiction issues. I've sat on 3 or 4 different council groups that work nothing but opioid addiction services. Kaya was one that I worked with, Living the Dream. I'm on a Team Jordan board, which is a suicide prevention board. There's just tons of them that we do stuff with. Culpeper technical education is I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm a substitute teacher at the Culpeper Technical School over here. My actual trade is an electrician, so I've done 2 full-time jobs my entire career. I've been an electrician for 37 and been a police officer for 26. So bringing the deputies, bringing the office into some of the things that we can do with the school systems, or better do with the school systems, is certainly one of them. The policing over politics is also one of the biggest pieces for me. I don't have a political bone in my body, but I've been force-fed a lot of politics in the last 6 months. I'm learning, but I'm hopefully keep this office from being political.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chilton. I appreciate it. Mr. Jenkins.
I would say that I want you to know most where I emphasize the point that actions speak louder. You can promise you the world. Judge me on my performance as a deputy, a member of this community, and as your sheriff the last 12 years, I know I'll have your vote. If you want a safe, secure community, remember that I am a Christian, patriotic American conservative. And if that labels me a Republican, so be it. I am your Republican sheriff until December 31st. Now, I ran independent past, and I'm running that way now. The party affiliation really doesn't matter in the service that you're getting from those men and women here tonight. That's the most diverse, well-educated, and trained office in the history of Culpeper Sheriff's Office, and I am proud to work beside them each day. I say that because my 2 opponents, I know I've worked alongside Tim and known him the best of the 2. I took over from the other one, and my staff can tell you what that was like. Tim and I have a good relationship with the police department working together, and we'll continue that regardless of this election. I just know that this community is safe. We have a community with law enforcement to be proud of. Unlike what my opponent was saying, that we didn't have an SRO in every school, the computer forensics lab was abandoned, all of that was false. It's on video from the forum we had at the Lions Club in Lignum a few weeks ago. We'll put it out for you. 7 months in, didn't even know that fact. So Tim and I, we may disagree on some points. The bottom line is, I've been a deputy and a sheriff. I bleed brown. These 2 guys have worked at police departments for many years. I respect their career, but they are very different. Whether it's game wardens, state police, local police, very different. I know the sheriff's office, and I work well with the Board of Supervisors, county administrators for years, and we have done a wonderful job valuing your tax dollars and keeping you safe. I thank you for giving me your vote, and I thank you for listening to us all tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Mi- Mr. Watson.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my vision for our sheriff's office. Like you, I'm concerned about the current situation. I'm concerned for our county and for our dedicated men and women at the sheriff's office. I have the passion and depth of experience to restore public trust and pride in that office. My vision, built on a solid foundation of experience and integrity, strengthens community engagement throughout the county. I will be the sheriff for all citizens in fairness and inclusion. Entrusting me with the office of sheriff will enhance the professionalism and pride of our deputies. These deputies are the men and women who have invested their lives and families, their hopes and aspirations in professional careers in law enforcement and corrections. Like our citizens, our deputies deserve trustworthy leadership to fulfill their aspirations to service in our county. Together with a highly motivated workforce and the earned trust of our partner agencies and citizens, I am well prepared to address the challenges facing our county. With my experience in Virginia and at the federal level, I will pursue practical state and federal resources to relieve financial pressure on our county. So many of our law enforcement challenges originate from outside of our county. We need a sheriff who is well experienced and connected to capitalize on external resources. We need a sheriff with a track record that instills the funders' confidence in the accountability management of those resources. My vision is clear. My commitment to listen to and be accountable to our citizens is well established. I would be humbled and honored with your trust to serve as our next Culpeper County Sheriff. I have never and will never dishonor my oath or the trust of the people of Culpeper County or my deputies.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, on behalf, I want to thank all of our candidates for coming today, and I also want to say to all of you, as a member of this community, I want to thank you all for the service that you do to keep us all safe. So that's most appreciated. All right? Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.